Hi, this is my personal case study of the way I conducted research for an essay. Okay, so to start, it's obviously worth having an idea that you want to write about. My own personal idea was to write about bad or immoral protagonists and to kind of research the ways that audiences might relate to these characters. Even though I had this idea, I hadn't yet chosen an academic discourse through which I could explore the idea fully. And there's a number of ways to do this. You can go through the modules that you've done and pull out things that you think would be relevant, or you could do what I did and just ask someone. When I told someone my idea, they pointed me in the right direction and told me to look at ethics in relation to it. Okay, so now I had my idea, I just didn't have a film. And in order to choose the film, I just kind of went through films that I knew had a bad guy for a main character, and I eventually landed upon American Psycho and the more recent Nightcrawler. What eventually helped me to pick a film was trying to work out how much scholarly material there would be available on both films. For this reason, I could safely assume that American Psycho would have more scholarly material about it. Okay, so now I'd picked my film, I'd worked out that I wanted to talk about the ethics of the character and the ethics of the audience, and it helped me to come to the title, The Ethics of Character and Spectatorship in Mary Harron's American Psycho. What helped me to refine my essay even further was to write a proposal and to hand it out among a group of people. They then handed it back and told me the strengths and the weaknesses of the proposal. The title, the main aim of the essay, the topic that would be used, the methods and the approaches within the topic and how they relate to the film, and possibly a short or extensive preliminary bibliography. The best place to start finding your sources is on the QM Library Discovery page. If you're off campus, then you'll have to use your ITS credentials to log in at the top of the page to gain full access. Start by using keywords. In my case it was American Psycho, Mary Harron, ethics, spectatorship. This should bring up a range of scholarly materials such as books, reviews, online texts, most of which are available to download or read online straight away. When I was conducting my research, I came across a text that I couldn't access through QM. So in the event that this happens, it's worth keeping it in mind and searching for it elsewhere later on. Outside of QM, there's also a few other places you can start looking for sources. These include JSTOR, Scopus, Project Muse, Film Index International, among many others. If you try to log into the sites while simultaneously logged onto QM+, you should be able to just log in via the institution, and that should allow you access to most of the texts available on the site. Most of these sites have the option to do an advanced search if needed, and this can come in helpful if you're looking for something very specific. I also found that one of the texts I've been searching for on QM was available on JSTOR, so I was able to retrieve that text and use it in my essay. Outside of JSTOR, Project Muse and the other similar sites, there's also other places that you might look for material. One of these places is Google Scholar. It collects a wide variety of mainly academic texts and gives you articles, essays and books related to the key words that you use. Many of them are links to sites such as JSTOR, Project Muse, and some are PDFs or Google Books which you can view on demand. Most have more than one version of a text that you can view. There are also a number of open sites that you can use, such as academia.edu, where academics can upload their work. Though I would suggest being a bit more wary of the sources found here, since the articles are uploaded by users instead of being peer-reviewed or chosen, such as they are on sites like JSTOR and Project Muse. There's also a wide variety of texts available at QM Library and Senate House Library, which I'd recommend joining if you already haven't. Try looking in a number of sections for the relevant books, but don't overload on books because you likely won't need most of them. Finally, you can also look at the QM staff directory to find a specialist on your chosen subject. If you do happen to find one, drop them an email and see if they're interested in suggesting you some books or even having some office hours. Okay, so by this point you're likely to have quite a big collection of essays, articles, reviews and books that you've found. It's also quite likely that a lot of these are not going to be all that relevant, so it's time to start narrowing them down. To save time, I collect a lot of my material into a folder and then rename it as something that I'll remember. This eventually saves time in the long run. I generally start by skim reading the essays and reading the introduction to the books to check that they're definitely what I'm looking for. You can save time on doing this with some digital texts by using Ctrl F and Apple key F in order to find keywords within the text. This can come in handy if a lot of the text is irrelevant. Try using a lot of keywords and variations. If it's a book, then you have to go to the index to look for keywords or skim for the chapters that seem to be the most relevant ones. Another way to skim a digital text quickly is to use a word cloud service such as Tuxedo, which displays the most frequent words in a text in a visual manner. As a side note, you can also do this later on for your own essays to check that you're staying on course. It's also worth considering any type of slant that a text might have. For instance, a review is going to be written with more bias than an analysis might be. Some texts might actually seem quite helpful on the surface, but when you read a little bit deeper, they're actually not that relevant at all. I had this problem when one of the texts that I'd chosen turned out to be about the stage rather than the cinema. Texts that you've found that do appear to be less relevant, I would suggest moving into a subfolder, just in case they do come in handy. This is also linked to the idea that you should always get rid of things and ideas that don't work. This is where writing a proposal can help, because when you hand it out to other people, they can tell you what they think works and what they think is less relevant to what you're trying to say. At this point, if you're still pushed for material, I would suggest going to the bibliographies of the books and the essays that you've found so far and trying to find other sources in there that might be useful to you in your essay. Okay, so hopefully by now you'll have collected enough resources, material and ideas that you can go forward and write your research project or your research project proposal. So now I'd just like to say thanks for watching. I hope this video has been of some use to you and that it's given you some type of information that you hadn't thought of before. Please feel free to go and watch the other 4 videos on this topic by my friends. They have covered stuff that I won't have covered. And finally, good luck.